The storm raged through the night, fierce and unrelenting, the rain pelting the tin roof of the shack as if heaven itself mourned for the inhabitants within. Inside, in the dim light of a flickering candle, Ayesha sat by her frail son, Ali, wrapping him tighter in the few worn blankets she had. The cold seemed to seep into her bones, but all she could focus on was the labored sound of Ali's breathing as he lay curled on a thin mattress, shivering despite her efforts. Life had become a never-ending battle, each day a new struggle against hunger, cold, and the ever-looming shadow of poverty. But Ayesha held on, driven by a fierce love for her son. She couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten a full meal, but that didn't matter. Every scrap she found was given to Ali. For him, she would have sacrificed everything, and in a way she already had. Her husband's death had been a breaking point, tearing apart the life they had built, and yet, for Ali's sake, she had clung on. The little shack they called home was barely a shelter at all, with holes patched by scraps of cloth and cardboard to keep out the chill. But it was all they had, and every night as she tucked Ali in, she promised herself that one day they would leave this place. One day, they would have warmth, food, and a life free from fear. Ayesha had not always lived like this. She remembered a time when they had had a proper home and a small but close-knit family. Her husband, Rayhan, had been a kind man, full of laughter and warmth, a simple laborer who took joy in little things. Together, they had dreamed of giving Ali a life filled with opportunities and hope. But dreams shattered quickly in the face of reality. When Rayhan had fallen ill, Ayesha had poured everything she had into saving him. She had sold their belongings, worked until her hands bled, and gone into debt, all in the desperate hope that he would recover. But her prayers had gone unanswered, and she had been left a widow, with a son too young to understand the harshness of the world around them. After Rayhan's death, Ayesha had to give up their house and everything that reminded her of happier times. She had moved with Ali into the shack, a structure barely fit for living but all she could afford. The days blurred into nights as she struggled to find work, doing whatever jobs she could find, washing clothes, cleaning, selling little trinkets at the market. Each day was a battle for survival, and each night, as she looked at Ali's tired face, her heart broke a little more. She was haunted by the thought that she was failing him, that no matter how hard she worked, she would never be able to give him the life he deserved. But through it all, Ali remained her source of strength. He never complained, never questioned their circumstances. At just 7 years old, he understood the weight she carried, and his quiet resilience gave her the will to keep going. She often wondered how he could be so strong. He was so young, so fragile, yet he met each day with a courage that humbled her. It was on one particularly cold night that Ali fell ill. Ayesha's heart clenched as she watched him shiver and cough, his small body racked with fever. She tried everything she could think of, wrapping him in blankets, boiling water to make steam, whispering soothing words to him as he lay half-conscious. But nothing seemed to work, and as his fever climbed, panic set in. She knew she couldn't lose him, he was all she had left. In a last desperate effort, Ayesha gathered him in her arms and carried him to the nearest clinic, praying they would find it in their hearts to help her. She walked through the rain, barely noticing the cold, her mind focused only on her son. When she reached the clinic, drenched and shivering, she approached the receptionist, her voice breaking as she begged for help. "Please," she whispered, her eyes filled with desperation. "My son is sick. He needs medicine. I don't have money, but I'll work for you, I'll do anything." The receptionist looked at her with a mixture of pity and helplessness, explaining gently but firmly that they couldn't treat Ollie without payment. Ayesha's heart sank as she realized her pleas were falling on deaf ears. She fell to her knees, clutching Ollie to her chest, her tears mixing with the rain. She was prepared to beg, to work endlessly, to sacrifice anything for her son's life, but even that seemed not enough. Just then, a man entered the clinic. He was tall and well-dressed, with an air of quiet authority. He noticed Ayesha on the floor, holding her son, and his eyes softened. Without a word, he approached them and knelt beside her, his expression filled with empathy. "Please tell me what's wrong," he said gently, his voice a balm to her wounded spirit. Ayesha poured out her story, her words tumbling over one another in her desperation. She explained how Ollie had fallen ill, how she had nothing left, and how she couldn't bear the thought of losing him. The man listened intently, his expression never wavering, and when she finished, he stood and walked over to the receptionist. "I'll cover the costs," he said simply. "Make sure the boy gets the care he needs." Ayesha could hardly believe her ears. She watched in astonishment as the man paid for Ali's treatment, his kindness so overwhelming that it left her speechless. She wanted to thank him, to tell him how much his generosity meant, but no words came. She could only nod, tears streaming down her face as she held Ollie close. The doctors treated Ollie, and slowly, he began to recover. Ayesha stayed by his side, her heart swelling with gratitude for the stranger who had saved her son's life. The man visited them every day, bringing food, blankets, and even toys for Ollie. He introduced himself as Mr. Khan, a businessman with a deep commitment to helping those in need. He listened to Ayesha's story with genuine interest, asking about her life, her struggles, and her dreams. One day, as Ayesha sat with Mr. Khan, he made an offer that left her speechless. He explained that he ran a charity organization dedicated to supporting families in poverty, and he wanted to help her get back on her feet. He provided her with a small loan, enough to start a business selling homemade snacks at the market, and promised to support Ali's education. Ayesha could hardly believe it. For years, she had fought alone, struggling to make ends meet, and now, for the first time, she had hope. She accepted the offer with tears of gratitude, promising Mr. Khan that she would work hard to repay his kindness. With the money he provided, she began making and selling traditional sweets at the market. At first, business was slow, but gradually, word spread about the quality of her products. She poured her heart into her work, each sale a step toward a better life for her and Ollie. Her reputation grew, and soon, she was earning enough to support them without relying on charity. Ali's life transformed as well. With Mr. Khan's support, he was able to attend school, where he thrived. His teachers praised his intelligence and determination, and he quickly became a top student. Ayesha watched with pride as her son excelled, his eyes bright with the joy of learning. She knew that, thanks to Mr. Khan, Ali's future was no longer overshadowed by poverty. Over time, Ayesha's business flourished. She expanded her stall, hired an assistant, and even began selling her sweets to nearby stores. She had gone from a desperate mother to a successful businesswoman, and the transformation filled her with a sense of purpose she had never known. Ali continued to excel in school, his love of learning a beacon of hope for their future. Their story spread through the community, inspiring others to help those in need. Ayesha became a symbol of resilience, a reminder that kindness could transform lives. People came to her for advice, young women sought her guidance, and mothers in poverty looked to her as a source of strength. As Ali grew older, he carried forward the lessons his mother and Mr. Khan had taught him. He became involved in Mr. Khan's charity, working tirelessly to support other families facing hardship. Together, they helped build schools, provide food, and offer medical care to those in need. Ali knew that he was fulfilling the promise he had made as a child, to help others as he had been helped. Ayesha and Ali's story is a testament to the power of compassion. They had risen from the depths of despair, lifted by the kindness of a stranger. Their journey is a reminder that we all have the power to change lives, that even the smallest act of generosity can create ripples of hope. As Ayesha often said, "We may have known hunger, but we were never poor in spirit." Because love, kindness, and hope, these are the true riches of life.